Hey guys, Will Ryan here. Sending you out this vlog because I wanted to let you know that Animerica Season 2 is officially on the books. Last night, I finished writing the 13th episode, so as of now, we are ready to finish production. I've pretty much finished already half of the shooting for the second season. Before I finished writing the show, I basically realized there was a lot I had to shoot in summer before it became fall here in Wisconsin. And so I wrote a treatment of the script in terms of the plot, and then I went out and I shot that with my cameraman and the actors, and then I came back and I did all the green screen, then I went out again and did all the location shots. So I got all that done when it was still good weather out and when we could still have beautiful days pretty regularly, so I had a lot of flexibility with when to shoot. And that's all wrapped. That's all done. What I have left is to shoot the actual review footage and to shoot the plot points that take place here. You know, there's a lot that takes place in this house, and that's what I will be working on. But secondly, first of all, like I said, I wanted to let you guys know that. But secondly, I wanted to reveal to you two of the anime that I'll be reviewing this season. I can't review the full boat because I'm trying to keep at least most of what's going to happen this season a secret, well hidden, so that there's plenty of surprises, twists, and enjoyment to be had along the way. This season is going to be much more serious than the first season. I'm going for a kind of psychological thriller with some horror vibes to it. Inspired by movies like The Machinist and Saw and several other movies that you'll notice subtle hints to. But that's what and shows as well, web series. I'm not going to be specific. You'll see them. But yeah, that's what I'm going for. And two of the anime, I can't review them all, like I said. I can't reveal to you the first, the last, or even some of the biggest ones. We're actually reviewing 6 anime this season. I think we only got to 5 last year. Let me think. We did Guyver, Hellsing, Shigarai. No, we did do 6. We got Guyver, Hellsing, Shigarai, Tenjo Tenge, Tokyo Majin, and Karas. This year we're doing 6 again, although they're much bigger anime. They're much more well-known. There might be an obscure anime or two, but I wanted to take on big-name anime that people are really familiar with, popular anime, and really render judgment on it. Of course, as Phoenix, that was actually one of the big challenges of this season, was writing several episodes from the point of view of a character whose opinion I actually strongly disagree with. That's the development Phoenix the First has gotten to now. I wrote the review for 2 of the anime that I won't reveal here as from a point of view of his character's point of view, not only in terms of the situation he's in the plot and the situation and the psychological state his character is in at the time, but also in general a point of view that I completely disagree with. And so that was a challenge too, but I think I pulled it off. Yes, so the 2 anime that I can reveal to you, I will reveal now, mostly because these are very review-centric episodes. They're not. There's a diminished focus on the jokes for these episodes, and it's a lot of ranting and reviewing. The first one, as I'm sure some would probably see coming, is Elfen Lied. There was a purpose. There was a reason why I did that fan-edit film, Elfen Lied: Sins of a Father, because I wanted to give light to the one part of the show that I genuinely thought was good. Now, in terms of its Phoenix, there was several of my opinions that came through. I first watched Elfen Lied when I was still in college. It was the second anime I'd ever seen. The first adult anime that I'd ever seen. The first being Death Note. I watched Elfen Lied, and at the time I thought it was really dark and gritty and really serious, and it took me by surprise. I didn't expect anything like it. And it was really violent, and I thought it was really disturbing, and it pulled off the emotional notes. But then again, I hadn't watched great anime like like Full Metal Alchemist and Cowboy Bebop and Trigun and Wolf's Rain, and I could go on and on and on. These shows that save the violence and the death and the torture and whatnot for when it's happening to characters that you love, and it's never on a hyperbolic level. It's disturbing because it's happening to the characters you love, and that's all it takes. Whereas with Elfen Lied, I mean, everything that happens is hyperbolic and over the top and just ridiculous. I mean, if you have characters being cut in half routinely, their limbs being severed, their hearts being punched out of their chests. I mean, your body can't comprehend, your brain can't comprehend how much that would hurt, because if that actually happened to you in reality, if you were cut in half or your arm was torn off or whatever, your body'd go into shock. You'd go into shock. You wouldn't feel the pain. So because that would always happen universally to like probably 99% of humanity, 99.9%, your brain can't process how much that would hurt. And so that's why it's ineffective. Like, it's grisly and it's disturbing to see, but not so much when it's animated. There's a much more real effect of being disturbed when you're watching a film like Saw, and this is happening to, even though they're actors, like real people. This is something happening to people. This guy is cutting his own foot off. This guy is getting slashed to ribbons with razor wire. Whereas in this show, it's cartoon characters, and by and large, the characters that are hard to give a crap about. I mean, you start talking about I won't dwell too much on this because I want to save a lot for the review. But I mean, you start dwelling on characters like Coda, who is essentially in love with his own cousin. I mean, I didn't even pick up on that the first time I watched the show. I thought it was just a childhood friend of his. I think her name is Yuka. I might be wrong on that. I thought she was just a childhood friend of his. No, she's his cousin. And the romance of the series is him and his cousin. Like, I don't know what Japanese mores and stuff are on that issue, but here in America, not okay. That's how I was raised, and so that's the perspective of my character. I mean, I don't think everybody gets this yet, but Phoenix's perspective is as a kid born and bred in America. That's why it's called Animerica. I've been corrected a couple times. Well, in Japan, sorry, these anime were localized here. That's at least how I'm writing the character. These anime were localized here. So in America, so we're going to have that. My character's going to have that American perspective. So yeah, that's where I was at with Elfen Lied, and it's not just the violence. It's in general the hyperbolic lengths this show goes to try and disturb the viewer. To give you a perfect example that's not overtly violent, the Diclonius babies that Kurama euthanizes. Now, this is in like advanced future time, where they can replace limbs with cyborg arms, like Star Wars style. They have medical technology to save people after their limbs have cut off, been severed, and they should have bled out. Unless you want to look at that as contrivance, up to you. You have this advanced technology on all scales. Including the restraining cave for number 35. Or, no, I'm sorry, I think it's number 35. I can't remember. You have all this super advanced technology, and they don't know how to use an ultrasound. I mean, these babies are born, and only then do they see, oh no, it's a Diclonius. She has pink hair and horns. Okay, I can see how you couldn't see the pink hair on an ultrasound, but we see right away in the very first episode x-rays of dead Diclonii, and we see the horns sticking out of the freaking head on x-ray. They're made of bone. They're connected to their skull. Like, I'm sorry, I'm getting like really heated here, and I don't mean to do that, but you think on an ultrasound. If on ultrasound today, medical technicians can see a baby's miniaturized junk sex organs to tell what gender they are, you would think, you'd think that they'd be able to see very pronounced horns jutting out of their skull. And the point I'm getting at here is that, you'd think if they were going to euthanize these babies in a culture where, around the world, abortion is largely embraced, at least to some degree, by some portion of the populace, they would just abort the child, abort the infant. Like, granted, if it would be a forced abortion, and they would be violating not only the rights of the infant for pro-life people, but also the rights of that woman for pro-choice people. I mean, this would be a major moral, ethical quandary. How do you do this? And for me, that's even more disturbing, it's more people's rights being violated for the sake of saving humanity. That's always more what's the word? Profound and worth thinking about to me. The more complicated morally and ethically the situation is, for me, the more ground there is to tread, the more, thinking and discussing there is to have. Whereas just for the sake of knee-jerk, don't kill the baby attitude, they have the babies born and then they kill them. Well, that makes no sense. Why wouldn't you use an ultrasound and force abortions? Like, who would actually allow these women to give birth to their babies only to be like, sorry, just kidding, we have to kill your daughter? Like, that's just cruel. Why would they do that? That's what I mean when I say, like, hyperbolic, over-exaggerated, just evilly evil. I mean, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm going to close the book on Elfin Leeds, save the rest for the review. That's actually, that what I just gave you is actually my perspective. It's not something that Phoenix argues in the review, so a little something for you guys. The second anime that I can review to you that I am going to be tackling this season is Scryed. Scryed was originally recommended to me by Remy back when we were shooting season 1. He told me it was awesome and I should see it. And it was just a ton of fun. And I was like, okay. And I went on Amazon and looked it up, and the cover, yeah, I have it right here. Hold on. You can just tell from the freaking cover of this thing that it's not going to be good. Like, the animation, not even the animation, the drawing on the front is freaking dismal in terms of quality art. It's horrible. You can tell from the word go that this show is going to be freaking awful, and there's not going to be anything that you're going to be able to do to salvage it, either mentally or, in reality, how good or how bad it is. And like, the animation is subpar. But that's not it. It's really the writing. The dialogue is so stilted, so unnatural, so overwrought, and so contrived. The plot is awful. Like, the main character, Kazuma, all he does the entire show is throw the same punch. That's his mode of attack. He just throws the same punch over and over and over again. And he wins every time because the plot says so. He's not even a well-written character. He's honestly a despicable douchebag who constantly puts other people's lives at risk without thinking, just carelessly, thoughtlessly. He's an irresponsible douchebag who doesn't take care of this little girl that looks up to him and honestly loves him. She's like 12 years old, and he should be caring for her, almost like a father figure, but instead she's constantly, the 12-year-old is constantly criticizing the adult. And that should tell you the problems that the character has. And it only goes further from there. It only gets worse and worse. That's actually a large part of how I review the show and how I attack it, especially as Phoenix. On all those levels of basic storytelling that it just fails at. So yeah, that's that. Now, the last thing I wanted to do today, a while ago in the comments on one of the episodes of season 1, it might have been the 12th, a while ago I teased something that happened during production in season 1. And that was when our shoot was ruined by the police. And I promised that I would tell that story at one point, and so I'm going to do that now. Basically, what happened was we had the two major fight scenes. I mean, we had three fight scenes. There was at the beginning of the season, me and Fox get in a scrap. Then when Vicar reveals himself, there's a fight scene on the front lawn of the review house, where my character lives. And then lastly, there's obviously the climactic fight at the end of the season. And when we were going to shoot that second fight scene, we knew it had to be a location. We wanted an abandoned lot type place, and we were driving around trying to find locations, and we found one that was an abandoned Walmart. And what had happened was there was a regular Walmart, and it had moved across town and become a Walmart supercenter. So when that happened, the old one is just an empty lot. The building is still standing, but nothing happens there. In fact, the asphalt is not maintained. It's really old and starting to crack, and plants are starting to grow through it. So we figured, okay, perfect empty lot. No one's gonna care, right? So we went there the first day and we shot the very few shots of myself and Alan playing Phoenix and Fox, because it's very soon after the beginning of that scene that we transform into Max and Axe. So we shot that, and this was I believe this was Thursday night. Yeah, this was Thursday night. We came back on Thursday night to shoot the rest of the scene as Max and Axe fighting Vicar. We came back to shoot this, and after we had shot the first few shots of us screaming and running at each other, I was going to move the camera for the next shot, and out of nowhere, two police officers pulled up. Now, to give you an idea, there's no civilization around this place. Their office, if you're standing in this Walmart parking lot facing the Walmart building, off to your right is a little bit of a hill, and then on top of that hill is an equally abandoned Jewel Osco. Or maybe it's just a Jewel grocery store, one of the two. Off to your left, about a football field and a half away, is a bunch of office buildings, which I'm sure by 6:30 at night when we went to shoot this footage were empty. So we went and shot this on purpose when there was no one around. But anyway, the cops pull up and they get out of their freaking worthless... They get out of their freaking worthless cars and they tell us that the reason they're there is because there was a noise complaint. Interesting. But before that, we have to go step by step with this because this is gloriously stupid. They get first of all, 2 squad cars for a noise complaint. Yeah, an anonymous tip called in a noise complaint. Shh, bring the rain. I mean, what? So these 3 officers get out of their cars, and I should denote, because this becomes relevant, this is not a sexist comment, this enlightens you as to the attitudes that these police officers held towards us. And the fact that they relished the power that they were abusing over us because we were men and they were women. All 3 of them, 3 female police officers. So we're obviously in costumes. We are, Explode Havoc and Vicar Chaos are very clearly wielding very obvious swords. They get out of their squad cars, and one of the women yells out across the parking lot in the most condescending, disrespectful tone I've ever heard from a police officer. You guys, drop your sticks and come over here. I'm sorry. I think your glasses need a new prescription. And because she wasn't wearing glasses, maybe you need to see an eye doctor. Because if from 25 yards away, you look at us, you see our swords clearly made of very real metal, and say, you guys drop your sticks, you either have serious problems being witty, and your definition of, criticize, put down your sticks. You sound like an idiot. They don't even look like sticks. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? So we walk over to these women. I could tell from those first words that we were screwed, that we were not going to get anywhere in any kind of discussion with these crazy people. And so we come over there, and they basically tell us that they got a noise complaint. And we say, from who? No, there's no one around. And they say, oh, it was an anonymous complaint. I want to emphasize at this point, Alan was immediately pissed. Like, they showed up, and from the phrase, put down your sticks, he was at 11. He was off the screen. He was immediately enraged. Like, they had just ruined our scene, ruined our shooting, and we needed to get this done. And he was immediately violently offended. And he comes up to him, and so he asks him, what? And he goes, well, who called it in? Oh, it was an anonymous complaint. He goes, no one lives around here. Who could have called it in? And that's when they said, well, the complaint said that there were guys around who looked like they were going to fight and kill each other. That's not a noise complaint. So you just outright lied. The first things they did was disrespect us. Then they outright lied to us. To serve and protect. So she friggin' admits this, and he goes, well, who called it in? And she again says it was an anonymous complaint. He turns and looks at me, and something I've noticed about myself is when situations I'm in where other people are angry, other people are frustrated, other people are stressed and reaching their boiling point, causes me to calm down. I have a very oppositional personality. So when I'm in that situation, like inherently, unconsciously, so I'm in a situation like that where these people are getting really pissed off, really angry, coming to the almost, getting to this really angry point with each other, I become calm. I can be a mediator. I can be the guy that pushes them apart, And so during this entire situation, I was calm. I was just focused on not getting arrested. I envisioned the potential future where we were all in handcuffs in the back of these 2 squad cars because we were shooting video in an abandoned Walmart parking lot. And this to me was too stupid of a thing. I was just like, I'm not going to fight you on this. So Alan's having his tantrum, and he actually raises some very legitimate points. He says, well, no one lives around here. So any random person driving by could have called in that complaint. How do you know it was legit? How do you know anything? And she goes, well, it doesn't matter. There was a complaint called in. We had to investigate, and you guys need to leave because there was a complaint made. And at this point, I stepped down. I was like, why do we have to leave? Oh, because there was a complaint called in. Well, so what? Isn't this public property? No, this is private property owned by the Walmart. You guys need permission to be here. And I said, well, how do you know we already? And I held back. I should have, but Alan picked up right where I left off. And he's like, well, how do you know we don't already have permission? And she said, well, it doesn't matter if you do. And he was like, bullshit. Of course it matters if we do. If Walmart said we could be here, then we have every right to be here. And she goes, well, do you have permission? He goes, no. Way to go, Alan! You're really, boosting our rapport with the cops here. So, I basically stepped in at that point and I said, well, what if we do get permission? What if we call? She said you need to call this person and do this and talk to them and so on and so forth. And I was like, okay, well, let's say we do that. We go to the Walmart, we talk to the manager, we get written express permission to be here. Then we're fine, right? And the cop goes, well, yeah, but if we got another noise complaint, we'd have to show up again and kick you guys out. And I said, you can't do that. And she said, yeah, we can. And I said, no, you can't. If this is private property and we have permission to be here, that's the same thing as me inviting my friends over for a few drinks in my house. Everybody has permission to be there. It's private property. If we get loud and there's a noise complaint, you can't come over to my house and kick my friends out. All you can do is tell us to quiet down. Well, if in this case, we're the friends that Walmart is inviting over to not have a beer, but to shoot some video on their property, there's nothing you can do about it. You can show up and tell us to calm down, but you cannot violate our constitutional rights to unlawful search and seizure, meaning throwing us off of property that we have a right to be on. That's a form of unlawful search and seizure. It's a violation of our constitutional rights for people to be not only secure in their person, but also their property. You can't just throw them off their land or land where they have permission to be on because, somebody complained that they're being loud. If they're committing a legitimate crime, sure. But a noise complaint is not a crime until you are demonstrably disturbing the peace and being flagrant about it. And she was just, these women who were essentially, at this point, just full of shit. They were literally abusing their power. Just not even caring about constitutional rights or individual freedoms or anything. They were just reveling in the fact that they got to abuse their police power over men. These women were reprehensible at this point. Now, granted, I will grant that we were technically trespassing because we didn't have the permission of the Walmart. But I mean, I think we knew that going in. We knew it was potential trespassing, but we figured, who's going to care? It's an abandoned lot. We didn't know it was privately owned by Walmart. We thought it was just public abandoned land. So they had a point there. We were trespassing. We had to leave. That was fair. But when it got ridiculous was, well, we're the police, so we can tell you what to do whenever we want. You just have to do it. No, we don't. The people have constitutional rights. You don't get to overthrow them unless a crime has been committed. That's what the Bill of Rights is for. Guaranteeing people their rights unless there is legal recourse going on. Unless there are criminal ramifications. You can't just be like, well, someone said you were being too loud, get the hell out. You can't do that. You can't do that. It's not legal. So they were basically flabbergasted at that point. They had nothing to say. No response. They were stuttering and bumbling. And finally the woman just goes, well, you know what? We'll cross that bridge if we come to it. If you guys have permission to be here, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But for now, you guys need to get out. You guys need to leave. And I was like, we know. But that's the point, isn't it? We were going to leave. We never weren't going to leave. Like Alan had this whole protracted conversation trying to get them to say what we did wrong. Me and Remy knew immediately what we did wrong. We were trespassing. But Alan wanted to make them say that. He went, I skipped over this part, but he essentially went on and on with these women for 5 minutes, making them explain not only what we were doing that was wrong, but why it was wrong. I mean, he figured, if they're going to be douchebags, I'm going to be a douchebag. If they're going to, sit here and lord their police power over me, then you know what? I'm going to make them pay for it. I'm going to sit there and make them explain the law to me in specificity, and they're going to do their job, or I'm going to make them do it. And it was hilarious being there, listening to him just interrogate these cops instead of the other way around, interrogating these police officers on the law. It was actually hysterical. I enjoyed it very much. Despite the fact that all I could think about at the time was, please don't arrest us, please don't arrest us, please don't arrest us, please don't arrest us. It was hilarious. Looking back on it, it was absolutely hysterical. I mean, still irritating because the cops were so full of crap. But I'm going to finish with this. The reason this was so disastrous is because we just lost our location for the second half of this scene. We couldn't afford to spend the time swapping wardrobe and reshooting what we had already shot at the Walmart. So what ended up happening is I called up my church and I was like, can we pretty please use your parking lot on either Saturday or Sunday night? And then we spent Friday during the day and Saturday during the day filming all the review footage. Now, what this caused was it caused us to completely just abolish the green screen scenes that we were going to do that involved the Archangels. We had several scenes planned, like I said, I left this in a comment too, that involved the Archangels, and we were going to play them originally. That plan has now been completely scrapped. So this is now not a spoiler or anything relevant to the plot going forward. But we had to scrap all those scenes because we didn't have time to shoot them anymore. You know, we were so high strung, so just emotionally and mentally battered by the week that when it got to be Saturday, and we finished the review footage, and it was like, we have to shoot this big fight scene, and then we have to go tomorrow morning and shoot the scenes of the stranger being killed by Vicar, and just the notion of getting dressed up in big, heavy, friggin' Archangel costumes and shooting against a green screen with really hot lights on you for an extended period of time really did not appeal to us. So, just for the sake of time and our own sanity, we ended up having to cut those scenes just to make sure we really got all the scenes we needed for the plot to work and for the characters to at least function on some level. And none of that would have happened if it wasn't been for these douchebag police officers that got way too technical, way too narrow with their enforcement of the law, in my opinion. And they could have been off giving somebody a speeding ticket who was going 70 in a 45. Because that happens a lot around here. Wisconsin drivers are awful. Fun fact. Don't come here if you want to live. No one knows how to merge, and nobody can, and half the people can't even handle driving the speed limit, and everyone tailgates everyone else. It's not fun. They could have been off busting someone for drugs. They could have been off preventing legitimate crimes. There was a friggin' drug bust a block from my house about a month ago, or 2 blocks from my house about a month ago. There's a better use of your friggin' time. Not coming up to a few guys dicking around in an abandoned Walmart parking lot and acting like they're the criminals of the day. Talk about missing the freaking point. Anyway, I think that pretty much sums it up. Cannot wait for season 2. Honestly, this season, I had so much time to work on this season, both in After Effects, in Photoshop, promoting the season, really thinking, rethinking, and rethinking again, not only the plot, but how the characters work into that, how everything interrelates and really coheres together to create this story that is an amalgam of really everything I've loved and been inspired by, from thrillers and morality tales and all these things, combined together into the advancement and development of Phoenix's character, combined with much drastically improved reviews of much bigger, well-known, popular anime. These are all things that I've really looked forward to. And I think that with all the extra time that I had for this second season, that will really show in the final product. And yeah, I can't wait. I cannot wait for the end of November. I'm sure you guys can't either. There's still a ways to go for me. I still got about half the shooting left to do and all of the editing left to do. But you guys are in for a treat. If you guys liked the first season at all, this season will blow you away. And that's my promise. For now, though, I'll see you next time, internets. Have a good day.